Searchers had found the lifeless body of former Miss South Texas, Irene Garza, face down in a canal in her hometown of McAllen. Garza was crowned Miss South Texas in 1958. Employed as a second-grade teacher at an elementary school, Garza had a way with children. Family members recall. She also was blessed with a musical voice and a natural effervescence. On Saturday, April 16, 1960, Irene Garza, 25, she had gone to Sacred Heart Catholic Church to give confession to Father John Fate, a bespectacled 27-year-old visiting priest. Easter Sunday, April 17, 1960, Garza's father files a police report alerting authorities about his missing daughter. Irene Garza's high-heeled shoe was later found near an empty road, and her patent leather purse was also found in the middle of a field. 5 days after she disappeared, Irene Garza's body was found floating in an irrigation canal. Garza was found fully dressed, except for her shoes and underwear. Her lavender blouse had been unbuttoned. The autopsy revealed that Irene Garza had been beaten with a hard object, sexually assaulted, and suffocated. Father John Fate became a suspect early in the investigation. Fate, 27, admitted he had heard Irene's confession in the rectory the night she disappeared. Sacred Heart Rectory, where Father Fate said he had heard Irene's confession. At the time, giving a face-to-face confession was considered highly unusual. When police drained the canal at the end of April 1960, they found a green slide viewer near where they believe Irene Garza's killer had dumped her body. Investigators at the bank of the canal, where they believe the killer had dumped Irene Garza's body. The police appealed to the public for help in finding the slide viewer's owner. Father John Fate sent police a note saying the photo slide viewer was his. Investigators' interest in Father John Fate deepened when they learned of an attack on another woman 3 weeks before Irene Garza's murder. 23 days earlier, he had been found guilty of attacking another young woman at a nearby church. He did not serve any jail time and was fined $500. When questioned by police, Fate offered various stories regarding his whereabouts on the night of the murder. Father Fate had visible scratches on the backs of his hands when he was photographed by police. Father O'Brien had noticed them as well, and Fate had explained that he had been locked out of his residence and had scratched them while trying to climb in through a second-story window. In 1961, Father Fate stood trial in Austin charged with assault, with intent to rape Maria America Guerra, but the jury deadlocked. Rather than face another trial, he later pleaded no contest to a lesser charge of aggravated assault and was fined $500. But Fate was never arrested in the Garza case and was quietly transferred to a monastery before leaving the priesthood in the late 1960s. The Irene Garza case faded from the headlines. In 2002, McAllen Police Chief Victor Rodriguez decided to reopen the investigation into Irene Garza's 1960 murder. Chief Rodriguez brought in the newly formed Cold Case Unit of Texas Rangers. Ranger Rudy Jaramillo was leading the investigation. In 2002, Monk Dale Tashney was a monk at the Assumption Abbey in Ava, Missouri, come forward and reveal to authorities their stories about Fate's admissions of guilt. Tashney says this is when Fate admitted to him that he killed Garza. Tashney told authorities it had taken him 40 years to come forward because the guilt had become too much to keep quiet. "I believe he killed her," said Tashney. "I had no doubt about it because he said he did." Father Joseph O'Brien, who had been the assistant pastor of the Sacred Heart Church in McAllen, came forward saying that Fate had made an admission of guilt to him as well. District Attorney Irene Garza decides against bringing the case before a grand jury. But despite the new witnesses, Irene Garza, the Hidalgo County District Attorney at the time, did not think they were credible. After pressure from Garza's family, District Attorney Garza brings the case before a grand jury. Presentation of the case is criticized because Fate, O'Brien, and Tashney are not subpoenaed to testify. A year later, O'Brien, age 77, died. The grand jury voted not to indict Fate. Linda De La Vina says she won't give up fighting to win justice for her slain cousin. In February 2016, John Feet was arrested in the murder of Irene Garza. In late 2017, 57 years after the murder of Irene Garza, John Feet stood trial for her murder. Assistant District Attorney Mike Garza points to John Feet in court. Garza says Feet killed Irene Garza with malice aforethought. Defense attorney Renee O. Flores says John Feet is innocent and that there wasn't any forensic evidence whatsoever collected then and now that affirmatively relate John Feet to this crime in any way. Beatrice Garcia in the 1960s. She says in the weeks before Irene Garza was murdered, she had a bizarre encounter with Father Feet. Anna Maria Hollingsworth testified that Irene Garza had told her that Father Feet had previously pulled Irene out of the church confessional and had insisted she give her confession in the rectory. Daryl Davis, seated, a former reporter, testified about an off-the-record meeting between reporters and the DA. In 1962, according to Davis, the DAA, that they knew Feet had murdered Irene Garza and that he would be sent to a monastery. Father Thomas Doyle, an expert witness on clergy abuse, testified about a letter between clergy members that the state says is a smoking gun in its theory, about a conspiracy between the church and authorities. Dale Tacheny, 88, testified in court against John Feet. Defense attorney Renee Flores appeals to jurors and asks them to consider the lack of evidence in the case against John Feet. Feet was convicted of Garza's murder. In the punishment phase of the trial, Feet's defense attorney asked that Feet be given probation, citing his lack of felony convictions since Garza's death. The prosecution asked for a sentence of 57 years, which was symbolic of the amount of time that had passed since Garza's death. But on December 8, 2017, the jury pronounced a sentence of life in prison. Feet was incarcerated at the WWJ Estelle Unit, 10 miles north of central Huntsville, Texas. He died of natural causes on February 12, 2020. Investigators and Irene's family believe Irene Garza is finally resting in peace.